Imagine for a second that tomorrow morning you open your newsfeed and see a headline that literally takes your breath away. Scientists have officially introduced a single injection that forever erases from your medical record. A diagnosis of cancer, diabetes, or Alzheimer's disease. No courses of therapy, no side effects, just complete regeneration. Seems like it's time to break out the champagne and celebrate the dawn of a new era. But for some reason, instead of a triumphant march, an ominous silence hangs in the air. Today, we're going to peek through that very keyhole that everyone tries to walk past with their eyes shut tight. And we'll figure out why your perfect health is actually the worst nightmare for the modern economy. We'll discuss why it's profitable to treat people for years, but deadly dangerous to actually cure them. How our bodies have turned into oil rigs for corporations, and what a monstrous price we pay for it. What the real cost is behind the development of life-saving drugs that are worth millions of dollars. But before we move on to the facts, I want to invite you right now to determine your personal profitability coefficient for the global healthcare system. This won't just be a test, it's your personal map, a map of your vulnerability to manipulation. I'll ask you just 3 questions, and simply count how many times you answer yes. Here's the first question. Is there at least one medication or supplement in your life that you buy regularly, considering it a necessity to stay in shape or for prevention, even though you don't actually have any acute illness? Here's the second question. Do you believe that if a definitive cure for cancer were discovered tomorrow, it would become available to all segments of the population within a year? Here's the third question. Do you agree with the statement that it's fair to pay any price the market sets for modern medicine and innovation? After all, our lives are priceless. Remember your number from 0 to 3. If you answered yes, just a reminder, that's 1 point. And you'll need to add up these points if you have more than one. Watch this video until the end, because at the end, I'll give you a detailed breakdown of these answers and tell you about a real-life case. When a major company deliberately delayed the release of a revolutionary product so as not to hurt their profits, you'll see that the rules of the game, when it comes to life or your wallet, are much tougher than what we're told in vitamin commercials. And believe me, as an insider, though in the past, and with one of my degrees in pharmacy, I can say many things with a pretty deep level of confidence. So, what's the point? We're used to believing that science is a pure white swan of humanism, carrying us into a bright future. Of course, we really want to believe that in those sterile labs, there are kind wizards in white coats who stay up all night, dreaming of freeing our world from suffering, pain, and disease. It's a pretty cozy, convenient picture. It's like a children's fairy tale, but let's take off those rose-colored glasses for a moment and take a look. Let's take a sober look at reality. Any pill in your medicine cabinet is first and foremost a product. It's not a gift from the heavens, but a product that's gone from market research all the way to the pharmacy shelf, and then to your kitchen table. And for any product in our system, there's only one real goal: to ensure a stable and growing quarterly report for the shareholders. This is where the main catch lies. Think about it. Why would huge corporations exist? To cure you once and for all? That would be economic suicide for the company itself. It's like if a smartphone manufacturer released a device that never breaks, and in a year, that company would simply cease to exist because the market would be saturated. Everyone would have bought those phones, and hardly anyone would buy new ones. With medicine, it's even more cynical by comparison, just like with this technology. A chronically ill patient is the ideal customer. They're loyal, they pay regularly, month after month, and the saddest part is they have no choice. They're tied to the pharmacy much more tightly than someone with the trendiest subscription. Keep that in mind if you haven't realized it yet. A complete recovery of humanity would mean instant collapse for the pharmaceutical giants. It's like inventing a light bulb that lasts forever. Well, that's just not realistic. Curing everyone would mean losing a market that took decades to build. And if tomorrow a formula appears that defeats cancer and other deadly diseases, it won't be handed out to everyone for free. I'm talking to those who dream of a cure for cancer. I dream about it too, and not just for cancer, but for other diseases as well. But I'm a realist. I fully understand that even if such a cure is invented, there will be years of clinical trials, years when the drug is unavailable for purchase. That will demotivate us from seeking treatment, and some people simply won't live to see it. If they invent such a drug, they'll just turn it into the most expensive and the most inaccessible subscription in the history of civilization. Because our world isn't interested in people not getting sick, in people always being healthy, or in us being able to cure those with life-threatening diseases. Think of the examples that break your heart. There's a disease, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. That's when a child's muscles slowly stop working. And by the way, on one of my channels, very soon I'll be publishing an interview with a mother whose child is suffering from this exact disease. A few years ago, a drug for this disease appeared, but the price of this miracle is about $3 million for a single injection. You get that? $3 million, not rubles. That's an amount an ordinary person couldn't earn in several lifetimes. The system basically tells parents, if you want to save your child, pay a fortune. No money? Well, get ready to cry at the grave. What else can I say? This isn't medicine. This is ruthless business built on the most basic survival instinct. We wait for salvation, not realizing that in a world where everything is for sale, our health is just someone else's passive income. Why are there hundreds of types of painkillers in pharmacies, but criminally few drugs that actually cure diseases for good? It's not a lack of brains, it's a calculated move. What they're offering us is endless repairs, instead of a complete restoration. And by the way, this endless repair is a key part of the business strategy, directly connected to your answers on the test. Those who answered yes to the first question are already voluntarily paying for the foundation of this system, even while they're still healthy. But let's go even deeper. We've turned into biological oil. They extract resources from us, keeping us alive just enough so the pump never stops working. The scariest thing, the quiet normalization of absurdity. We accept as a given that insurance companies decide whether a person deserves to be examined and what happens with the most cutting-edge developments in medicine. Very often, these are bought out by major players just to stash the patent away in the back drawer. Why release an affordable remedy if it would kill the sales of the current bestseller? They call this protecting the product portfolio. In business language, it sounds very dry, of course, but in human terms, it's a death sentence for millions. A scientist in the lab might want to save the world, but unfortunately, he's just a pawn in this game. The decision isn't his to make, it's made by the board of directors, whose job is to maximize profits. And in reality, it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle where morality isn't even on the payroll. Progress has become a hostage to the balance sheet. And we're aggressively pushed into a culture of preventative consumption. I'm not talking about a healthy lifestyle right now, but about endless checkups and energy vitamins that create an illusion of control. We're being trained to be professional patients even before we get sick. If a person is healthy, they're convinced they're not healthy enough. If they're sick, they're offered disease management instead of treatment. Managing symptoms instead of addressing the root causes is a brilliant trap. It forces you to accept the role of a perpetual client. And I, as a former pharmacist from a pharmacy, from behind the scenes itself, I was right at the center of all this, can tell you that even most patients don't realize they need to treat the cause, not just the symptoms. Why did marketing get pushed on us through advertising? And what if tomorrow you're offered a health pill at the cost of putting your family in financial bondage for 3 generations? What would you choose? Debt or decline? This isn't science fiction, it's the reality of the pharmaceutical industry. And now we've come to the brink of biological inequality. The rich will become people without diseases, while the rest will just be resources for testing. And maybe the theory about that so-called golden billion isn't so absurd after all. And it sounds, if you really think about what I'm telling you in this video, we ourselves have built this pedestal. We've gotten used to delegating responsibility for our well-being to someone in a white coat. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the doctor. No, I'm all for treating your illnesses if you actually have them, of course. But what I want to get across to you is that for many people, it's just easier to swallow a pill to silence the body's signals than to figure out why it's screaming and what it's trying to say. Corporations are more than happy to pick up where we leave off. Here's your solution in this blister pack, just pay for it. This creates an illusion of safety behind which we actually lose control. Because in the past, doctors used to fight for recovery. These days, you hear the term stable condition more and more often. Dear doctors, I respect you very much, and I don't want to offend anyone if you're watching this video. But I'm talking in general about the whole system. Of course, most of you want to cure your patients and care about their health. But unfortunately, that's not always the case and not everywhere. And in big business, everything works in a completely opposite way. In medicine, this so-called stable condition means that you're not dying right now, but you're not really getting healthy either. You're stuck in a state that's convenient to monetize. It's like a smartphone subscription. You rent the normal functioning of your body from suppliers of chemical crutches, and you have to keep renewing it. Just like a subscription. Imagine what civilization would be like if half the money spent on marketing improved versions of old drugs went toward finding the real causes of diseases. But prevention's a really bad business. A person who sleeps well and manages their stress doesn't generate any profits. They're an economic ghost. You'll never see sleep routines advertised with the same enthusiasm as heartburn pills. They sell as poison in a pretty wrapper, and then the antidote in an even more expensive package. Just think about the story with insulin. Medicines that were given to the world for just one symbolic dollar now cost more than rent. The patent has become a tool for suffocation. A machine with no empathy has come between the scientist and the patient. All it knows how to do is count. And as long as a single shot costs that much money, we haven't won the disease. We've just learned how to sell them at a very high price. And now, as promised, it's time to break down the test results. Let's take a look at which risk zone you're in. If you scored 0 points, congratulations, you're a system error. In quotes, of course. You don't trust marketing, you have critical thinking skills, you don't pay for illusions, and you take responsibility for yourself. For corporations, you're lost profit, so they'll keep targeting you through fear and new trends until they find your entry point. Your advantage is maintaining this immunity to manipulation. You scored 1 or 2 points, you're in the loyalty zone. The system has already taught you that any discomfort can be solved by making a purchase. You believe in the humanism of a structure that was created to make money. Your takeaway from this video is to realize that your faith in accessible medicine is actually financial fuel for those who are hiding this medicine from the rest of the world. If you scored 3 points, you are the perfect long-term asset for those very pharmaceutical corporations. The system completely controls your expectations and your fears. I wouldn't be surprised if the artificial intelligence that selects algorithms on social networks and on your phone already knows when and what you'll get sick with. You're ready to pay any price for promises. Promises of life. Promises that this medicine will help you. Promises of a cure-all. And that's exactly what allows corporations to dictate the terms to you, which we've already discussed in this episode. This video is for you. I hope that a cold shower is necessary to regain control over your wallet and your body, but that's not guaranteed. So what should you do? Our main weapon, of course, is critical thinking. When you're offered an innovative remedy that claims to solve everything at once, be sure to ask yourself, are they just trying to slap a band-aid on my deep wound? Become an inconvenient observer who sees the hidden mechanisms. Our awareness, that's something you can't put in a spreadsheet, in the profit tables. It's much harder to make a conscious person buy something they don't need. And of course, such people are at a disadvantage in this system. We must reclaim our right to genuine health, independent of the stock market. The most expensive medicine. Not that $3 million shot. The most valuable thing is the certainty that your body belongs to you. Don't let others turn you into their passive income. Remember, behind every breakthrough, there's a choice. To save or to profit. And while the world keeps choosing the latter, all we can do is be smarter and take better care of ourselves. Because curing everyone would mean losing the market, and no one plans on losing it. But we can stop being part of that market if we start valuing our health more than their comfortable reports. Awareness is the only free vaccine against manipulation. Take care of yourself and let your path to health be your own choice, not someone else's business plan. See you next time, because in the upcoming episodes, we still have a lot to discuss together.